All right, welcome back to another. This is a in the kitchen with Carla, but it's also in class because we're learning about food through her lens. And let me welcome the one and only top chef, culinary anthropologist extraordinaire, Carla Hall. Thanks for being here.
It is such a pleasure. I can't tell you how many people I run into. They're like, I saw you on Karen Hunter. I love the discussion about grits. I love the discussion about watermelon. And I'm just so excited to do this with you.
Listen, you're changing lives. There are people that would never eat watermelon in public until they watched you eat watermelon, both of us, talk about watermelon. I had somebody text me a picture because of Carla. I think I picked the right watermelon. Look, and they like showed me watermelon because you gave the whole tutorial on how to pick watermelons. And the okra, thank you for that. You freed a lot of people from the slime. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
And so today we're going to be doing greens and black eyed peas. And first of
Yep.
all, those pots, your pot is what kind of pot is that? That is beautiful.
This is actually a Mario Batali pot that I got for my wedding.
Okay, okay, no comment.
the,
I don't.
yeah, yeah. This is a pot that is a painted cast iron, like enamel coated cast iron. And so a lot of times you see all these different colors, whatever colors you want. They are heavy. They can be used on induction, and they're really great for stews. And they really lock in the flavor.
Okay, so cast iron. I love cast iron, by the way. And I
Hmm.
have a couple of cast iron pots. I didn't have the tradition, of handing it down because you can hand down cast iron pots
Yep.
for generations, and you can cook just about anything in a cast iron pan or pot. Um,
Hmm.
are they the best conduits or the conductors of heat?
I think so. I think that they are, they heat evenly. Once they heat up, they retain the heat. Um, they are flat. They don't bulk. They don't warp, you know. I think they're great. And the more you use them, the more seasoned they are. They can be like a non-stick skillet if you take care of them. So this one is enamel coated. So if you are making something with tomatoes, so tomatoes have acid. So the only thing that I would say about nonstick, the only thing that I would say about cast iron is that when things are acidic and they're cooked in there, they can sort of erode at the iron. And also, you get your iron. I mean, men may not want more iron, but women, we can get iron from the use of cast iron.
I
So,
heard that
but
somewhere.
did you hear that somewhere?
Yes, I did.
But in these, it's all of the cast iron is coated with an enamel paint. So you you can sort of stew and then they're coated, so you can use acidic ingredients, and they're great.
Okay, so you got a big old pile of greens sitting in front of you.
Yes, I
And
just wanted to show you.
go ahead. No, go, 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 go.
No, I just wanted to show people how I make greens. A lot of times people throw the onions and garlic and everything, and then they put the greens in there and they put a little bit of water and they cook it like that. And I thought this was a really good opportunity to show you that I make my pot liquor first. That's hot. So I make a pot liquor, and in this pot liquor, I just make sure that this is delicious. So in here, I have water, lots of onions, and I have some garlic, and it's vegan. So I used um, smoked paprika, and I put chili flakes and apple cider vinegar. That's all this is. And I wanted to show you how I do my greens because I was like, this is the perfect opportunity to actually show greens. So I cut them really fine, and I cut them first. I keep the stems in there because I like the texture. So I keep the stem, and there's very little waste because there's so much waste that goes on. And then I just drop them in my pot. And I thought, while we are talking, my greens are going to be cooking.
Okay, so the pot liquor, water, garlic, smoked paprika, chili. How much garlic? How many cloves of garlic? Because I'm becoming a garlic-holic. Garlic-holic.
Okay. So garlic, garlic, colic, yeah, yes. So I do about 3 large onions, and about a half a cup of chopped garlic, like a quarter to a half a cup of just minced garlic. And then I cook that down in lots of oil. Because I'm not using meat, I use about a quarter cup of olive oil. And
So
you
are
can use vegetable oil.
you sauteing the garlic and onions in the oil, and then you boil?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then I get that all nice. And then I add my smoked paprika, because that gets bloomed in the oil. So then, and then it's about a quarter cup of smoked paprika. And then I like vinegary greens because I'm from Southeast, of the Southeast, like Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi. Our greens are a little vinegary versus the Carolinas that tend to be a little sweet. So if you like sweet greens, you may not use as much vinegar as I do. So then I put the vinegar in there, and you can use water, which is about 4 cups of water or 4 cups of vegetable stock. And I put it in there and I let it go for about 20 minutes. I taste it. I know that when that pot liquor is delicious, my greens are going to be good. Oh, and of course, salt.
How much salt for the people out there with the blood pressure issues?
Well, if you're starting from water, raw ingredients, you can use the salt. If you are trying to put in all of these seasoning salts, and every salt isn't made equally, I did about a tablespoon of salt, because you can see I have a lot of greens, and it shouldn't be salty. But because of the vinegar, that's another reason I use vinegar. That acid is also going to have some brightness, and it's going to read like, that's not going to read like salt, but it will have that that note of complexity, and it will pull out those flavors the same way that salt will.
Okay. Now, history. Black people, I read is Southern. So perhaps our melanemic brothers and sisters and cousins don't do this, but in my household, and my mother's from Augusta, Georgia. My father's from Newark, but his family's roots are in South Carolina. New Year's tradition, greens and black-eyed peas for good luck, right?
Yep.
So you do a watch night service. Midnight, you eat your greens and your black-eyed peas. The greens represent the dollars and the black-eyed peas represent the cents. And that will give you prosperity coming into the new year. Now, I don't know if it worked, but we did it every year. Did that happen
every single year? Every single year, I did it. I mean, you don't even know why you're doing it, and you're doing it every single year. And so when you think about the greens and representing wealth, like green dollars, cash, black-eyed peas for luck. I mean, there was a story that for every black-eyed pea, like for every year, it's the luck. And also putting pork in the black-eyed peas for good luck, because pigs don't look backwards. So it's all about looking forward. And then you're having those, so it's about your year going forward, not looking back. And then the coins, the coins, and then the luck and the wealth.
As you're talking, and I was just thinking, there's a lot of superstition related to food. If you spill salt, you have to toss it over and like you find yourself doing these things because if do you in the kitchen, do you have superstitions that you?
I am constantly, if I spill salt, I do that. I just, if I drop something, even if I'm going to throw it away, I pick it up, kiss it up to God, throw it away. I do those things. It's kind of crazy, but remember, like when you put your elbows on the table, we had it like the fairy that we just crushed. We had to and blow it up.
Where do these things come from? And why if we don't do it, we feel like something bad is going to happen to us, as if we're not living through 2020 right now. But anyway, that's another story. Child. I mean, like apparently someone didn't throw the salt, somebody didn't eat their black eyed peas. Y'all didn't kiss the fairy. Something y'all not doing out there because this is ridiculous. But
Or or we have to all go through the same thing in order to see what somebody else's plight is. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people can skirt the issues. A lot of people can say, oh, well, that's not me and I'm going to resist it. Everybody had to go through this. Everybody, even though the experience may be different, you have an idea of what somebody else is going through. However, there are more people dying in our community than others. But what do we have to look at? This is a great time for us to look at our health, the economics, and what do we have to do? How do we pivot, right? How do we do what you talk about and take control, take our power back and be in charge of our commerce? There's so many artists, Black and brown artists, who are doing things on social media who weren't seen before. There's so many companies clamoring to say, let me grab this Black person to show that I'm woke. And I think that it is an opportunity because we've always had these things. We've always been creative because we had to make something out of nothing. And now a lot more people are trying to make something out of nothing. And we're like, okay. I mean, honestly, when this happened, or when I lose a job, I'm like, okay, what am I going to create?
I think about, as I was preparing for today's shows, black eyed peas, collard greens, and then there's chitterlings. And I think about, as you're talking, chitterlings were literally the last thing that no one wanted to eat, that was given to people in bondage, because it was the only thing that, the hoofs, the snouts, the tails, the entrails, that massa wasn't gonna eat. And Black folk found a way to make entrails delicious. And I've been saying this on my show. I'm tired of us making chitlins. We're always making the best out of the worst. This is part of our superpower. But at some point, we're gonna get that choice meat. At some point,
Yeah.
we're gonna get the whole hog, and not just the entrails. And what's ironic about that is those entrails now are worth a lot of money culinarily. In restaurants, it's a delicacy, to be able to
Yes.
chitterlings well. Did you grow up in a household with chitlins?
I did not. Can I
Me,
tell you? I never
yeah,
ate them.
me either.
I only
Okay,
ate them when I went to have them. There's a Latin dish, a South American dish that I had. I had never had chitlins. My mother refused to eat them.
okay, good. I told y'all the one chitlin story that I had that was horrific, but we never ate them either. So that's good. But you bring up, the time is now to create, out of nothing, or to create something out of a bad situation. That is the thing that we are built for. And so, everyone watching right now, if you have an idea that you've been ruminating on, marinating on, to use a food reference, this is the time. This is the time to get it done. All right.
And you
So,
know what else, Karen? I just want to say to that point, I really think that there's so many things that we discount because we have done them so easily and so effortlessly throughout our lives. They're just a part of our lives. And with so many people, those are the things that we value the least. And I think this is time for us to actually look honestly at ourselves, to see what we're throwing away because we want the thing that we're valuing that looks like what somebody else is doing. So what are we throwing away that has value, that we have to look and say, you know what, I'm keeping that for myself.
You just said something, and I've been contemplating that with everything that I've ever done, from books to even this. And let me just thank you again for doing this. I didn't know that people would want to watch us talk about food, and but to have a platform to be able to do that, and to do it in the comfort of our homes, and to be able to do it, like, just very, without the lower thirds and without all of the prettiness, and it's still being received in a way that I imagine that feels good because that empowers us, because then
Mm-hmm.
we're not dependent upon anybody's outlet or any producer or, all of the 10 people that go into doing shows that you do. There's 1,000 people that go in, hair, makeup, all of this stuff. And it's just two women talking about food. And I hit record and there we go. And off to the
Yeah.
races. And so the greens, you chop them up. I want to get back to that because I struggle with where to get greens. When I was growing up, the greens had worms on them and stuff. My mother would have to soak them and wash them, and she would rinse them with vinegar and just to make sure that they were squeaky clean. Now you can get them organically from these fancy stores and they're already pre-washed. How does Carla Hall get her greens?
I never get the greens that are already cooked. I never get the greens that are already cut. I look for the ones that are in the bundles, and those have been washed a little bit. But yesterday when I was looking for greens, I went to a couple different stores looking for them. And then when I finally found them at my neighborhood Safeway, because it's in the Black neighborhood, I'm like, who's making greens right now? Because the pickings were slim. And this is not the best time of the year. It's summer, so it's not the best time of the year to get greens because they are large and tough. The best time to get greens is like after the first frost because they're bitter greens. They're winter greens. So now I got about 4 or 5 bunches, and I threw away because they were all just messy and nasty and so tough, probably about 1.5 bunches. And then that's why I also ended up getting kale. I got the curly kale to mix in with my grains. If they had mustard greens, I would have put a little bit of that in there too, because I like that peppery. But I definitely want to cut my own grains. There's nothing worse, seriously. And I'm not trying to put anybody out of business. But when you get that bag of those cut up collards and they have the stems that look like trees, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that?
So you take the veins out. You take the middle part out?
Nope.
Okay.
No,
So
I don't take the middle part out. Look, I have mine where I keep that vein in and I cut it really thin. So I cut my greens like little ribbons. I stack them. This is before I wash them. So I take them all out of the bundle. I stack them facing all the same way. And then let's say with the dark green part up, and then I flip them over. I roll them up and I slit down the center of the roll, and then I cut them really thin with the stems because one, that's a lot of flavor. It's also texture. So my grandmother would cut her greens really big and she had to cook them so long that we were gumming those things down. With these, as you can see here, they're already wilting down, and this is the way I like my greens. And you can see those little pieces of stems, which are so great in texture. And you can also take your stems if you want and pickle them. So I have some chow here. I made some chow too.
What is
Make some
chow?
Oh, you don't know chow?
I don't know chow. Oh,
y'all. So chow is a pickle relish, and it has cabbage. It's like chop. So it has cabbage and green tomatoes and peppers, and then I make a pickling liquid with vinegar, apple cider vinegar, and water, a tiny bit of sugar, turmeric, mustard seeds. So and then you can make it as spicy as you want. It is.
Wow.
Look at that.
Okay. Okay, Carla.
And I eat it on greens. I eat it on eggs. I eat it on
eggs?
Yes, black-eyed peas. I have my black-eyed like beans, like Hoppin' John. I would have raw onion and chow on top. Oh my!
Wow. Okay, all right. So, man, okay, I've never had chow before. Now I'm gonna have.
I gotta send you some. I gotta send you some chow.
Can you bottle or can that? Like you should have a can.
Yeah.
You
I should.
pickle watermelon rinds, right? That's a pickle.
Yes.
This chow chow, I think people would buy that.
Oh,
Just
I mean, you can buy it in the South. You can buy
no,
it in
I
the
want to
South,
buy
and
it from
there's
you. I want to buy your
no,
chow chow.
and I want you to have mine too, because those people from Alabama, Tennessee, y'all know this chow chow. It's like this chopped, just tangy pickle that just goes with anything rich. I mean, you could have your oxtails and have your greens with some chow chow on the side to cut through that richness. This is the reason that as you're cutting through richness of whatever's on your plate. I mean, I'm serious. Yes,
And
my chow
pickles,
chow needs to.
from a health standpoint, pickling is like sauerkraut. All of that is great for digestion. Is great for your probiotics, for your gut health. So just almost, if that's a Black Southern, formerly in bondage thing, then inherently Black people understood that they needed to cut the crap that they were eating with something that would help their gut health. Look at that.
Right. Look at this, y'all. These see how they're wilting down. I could have put all of those greens in here, but I'm deciding how much pot liquor I want to have. But this is another thing. You can make your pot liquor ahead of time. You can freeze it. You can have it in the freezer. Pull out just some containers of pot liquor. Have your greens cut, and you can be like boom, boom. So for the holidays, you can go ahead and make your pot liquor right now. I'm
Oh,
just
I
saying.
love that. I love it. So I want to get back to the kale. What's the ratio in or mustard to bundle of greens? What's the ratio?
So I would do, because I like mostly collards, I would do 4 to 5 bundles of collards. I would do 2 bundles of kale and 1 of mustard, because the mustard grains are so strong. I mean, think about the yellow mustard, Dijon mustard, how pungent it is. I just want a little bit of that, but you can add in any kind of grain. You really can.
This is good. So how long? Because I feel like we overcook our greens. We cook all. Do we cook the nutrients out, or are the nutrients all in the pot liquor?
They're in the pot liquor. That's why we eat that. That's why the day after you would have your greens, and you would take that pot liquor and a piece of cornbread and put that pot liquor on the cornbread, because all of those nutrients are still in the pot. You're drinking all of that vitamin A, and you're getting that vitamin C. But I cook mine until they are tender. So I cook them for about, these are still a little crunchy. Oh my God, they're so good. Mm. Oh, sorry. This is a good batch. I cook them, and I'm gonna start simmering these for about 30 to 45 minutes. They're not crunchy. I still want them to be soft and tender. So yeah, and I'm just gonna put the lid on. Yeah.
So is that steaming? Are you going to put the rest of that in there? The rest of the greens
I
that
could,
are okay.
but I'm gonna be mailing these. I told a friend that Yvette Nicole Brown.
Oh,
I
shout out
told
to
her that
yes.
shout out to Yvette Nicole Brown. So I'm going to be sending her greens. I had sent some greens to a friend in Chicago, and I said, I'm going to send you some greens. And she was like, okay. And when she received them, she's like, you really sent them? I'm like, yeah. I sent her greens and cornbread.
So how do you send greens and cornbread to people across the country?
So I put them in a quart container. I freeze them, and then until it's solid, and then I send them overnight.
Okay. All right. And the cornbread, and it holds up?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So I make a big, like, cast iron skillet of cornbread. I cut it in quarters. I wrap them, and then I put them on top. And I do get a little bit of dry ice for the cornbread and make sure that everything stays nice and cold. But they receive them. They're still frozen.
So these are Yvette Nicole Brown greens that you're making right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. I'm so jealous. All right. Shout out to her.
You want me to send you some greens?
No, I don't want to ask you to do that, Carla, because people ask a lot. I don't want to be that needy friend that needs some greens.
I'm offering you, girl. I'm gonna send you some greens.
I
Okay.
receive. I'll receive them. I appreciate that. All right. So, do you always do greens? What's your side dish? What's the thing that you most make with greens?
So when I am homesick, especially when I was in New York and I was homesick, that's why I was so excited to do this with you today. When I was homesick, I would make greens, some kind of beans. A lot of times they would be black eyed peas or like kidney beans. I'd make a big pot of beans, greens, and cornbread because that is my comfort food. That is the food that makes me feel like I am at my granny's table, Sunday supper. It just gives me life. So sometimes I might have a sweet potato with it. A lot of times I won't have any meat. The center of the plate item might be a baked sweet potato.
Mm.
Yeah.
And that represents what? So, Granny, we've talked about her biscuits. We've talked about, her dishes, her love that she puts into the food, which is I
Mm-hmm.
guess the ancestor that you most embody when you're cooking. The greens, her greens, you said she would make them big.
She would make them big. And I remember Granny saying to me, can you go out and pick the greens? Because she had a garden. I didn't want to pick any greens. I just wanted to play. And we would be sitting at the table and I would go and, begrudgingly pick these greens. And then we were sitting at the table and I'm like, you're probably eating weeds right now because I didn't know the difference between weeds and greens. As if Granny couldn't tell the difference either. So she just cut up whatever I brought her and put it in the pot. It's so funny when I think back to how I made that statement because basically I didn't want her to ask me again to pick collards, but yeah. But the sweet potato is because my mother talked about how when she was in boarding school, they had sweet potato and greens so much. I mean, they didn't have a meat, and she talks about that all the time. And after hearing that story, I kind of wanted to do what I heard my mother talk about that she did. So, and I love sweet potatoes.
And you just threw that out when she was in boarding school. When we think about Black people, Carla Hall, your mother went to boarding school where?
She went to boarding school in Camden, Alabama. Yeah, Camden, Alabama. My mother went to boarding school, and I was like, you went to boarding school, which is why she doesn't know how to cook. So her older sister, who was 12 years her senior, went there, and my mom was like, oh, I want to go there. I want to go there because Juanita went there. But I mean, she's 12 years older. So by the time my mother gets there, of course, in fourth grade, Juanita is gone. And so she was there from the fourth grade until the 11th grade. And yeah, it was a boarding school with Black children. She
It was a
lived in
Black.
Lebanon, Tennessee.
Wow, a Black. So again, when you think boarding school, you think, Andover, you think, upper, white folk with the smoking jackets and the ascots, you don't think Alabama Black people. And this is, again, this is the problem in America. I think we don't know each other. We don't know each other's stories. We don't see one another, and I had to pause you because I've never known this, that your mother went to a boarding school. But to know that it was a Black boarding school in Alabama, there's so much history there that I'm sure that I want to
Yeah.
dig into. I'm going to start Google searching when we get off this.
And you know what? It's so funny you're saying that. And I've been, how you hear these stories and you just talk about them, but you don't really think about the consequence or the impact of them. I need to ask my mother more questions about that. Just the other day, because of women's suffrage, somebody was like, they were doing that whole thing about when was the person who voted first in your family. And they're like 100 years, 100 years. I'm like, we haven't been voting for 100 years. Okay. But that's a whole other story. But I started asking questions in my family because I said, I don't know who voted first. I learned that my grandmother made a meal for Martin Luther King as he was coming through Lebanon, Tennessee, because he's always in Tennessee from Memphis to Nashville and everywhere in between. I'm like, why didn't I know this? There's so many questions and things that I didn't ask. And so you're reminding me of that. And then I found out that my great grandmother was so influential in helping to get the voting rights and the civil rights movement up and going. She was 90 years old when she was doing this. And so I said, I don't know, I can't prove that she voted, but she would have been 94, and she didn't die in 1965. She was 94. She didn't die until she was 103. So by deduction, I would think that she would have been the first person to have voted in my family, because if she was in on the freedom rights, the civil rights, the voting rights, she would have made sure that she was there, you know, in those, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, right, that she was left here.
And as you're talking, you know, just like food, you know, we gather around tables for holidays, and some of us still eat meals with our family. And that's where the stories are told, you know. And as children, we were raised as Black people to be seen and not heard. You know, we were raised to, you know, not interrupt adults and not to have adult conversation. You know, and it's a very Southern thing, you know, children are to be seen and not heard. My lips would get twisted if I butted in on it. So we were having to suss out our own history, because you couldn't ask grown folk questions back then, you know. So when I ask my mother questions, she'll say, I couldn't ask my mother or my grandmother those questions. You know, you get a whooping. So we lost so much of these stories. And so, you know, those of us who have elders still alive and we're in a different time, let's start to reclaim our history, reclaim our story, because as we piece this tapestry together, your story will, you know, Dr. Carr and I always say, in the comments is where we get the flesh out. You know, we'll have a conversation, but folks will be like, oh yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm from Egypt, so-and-so, or Cairo, so-and-so, and this is how that name, and we start piecing together our story because it's been lost. Just like some of our food culture.
Yes. Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. And I never thought about why that was. And thank you for articulating that, because we were just listening. And then also, quite frankly, if I'm just, I mean, we're sitting there, and then that's when you're like, you know, can I just get up? Because I can't talk to you. I'm not participating in the conversation. So after a while, I want to get up and go run. And sometimes the answer was no, because I'm supposed to sit there and listen, which was good. Right?
So as these greens boil down and cook out, and your granny obviously did not put weeds in the greens, and you still have to pick them. You know, the black-eyed peas come in as well. Your Hoppin' John. Did y'all call it Hoppin' John in Tennessee?
We did. We called it Hoppin' John, and where it would have the tomatoes and the rice. And
wait. You said tomatoes?
You have the rice. Like, it'll be light, like fresh tomatoes. You wouldn't see them. It would just be part of the. It would just break down. It wouldn't be red. It would still be kind of white, but yeah, it would be fresh tomatoes in there. You don't put tomatoes in yours, obviously.
No, we did. Like my mom would do neck bones, or you know, some sort of pork, you know, would be like a fat back. If we didn't have, you know, I'm fancy, so I do turkey wings, you know, turkey wings, smoked turkey wings, or smoked turkey breast, you know, which is the, you know, if you, it's expensive, but you don't have to worry about bones and stuff. But you know, I'm now you know, I'm not eating meat, so you saying tomatoes, there's a lot of onions and garlic, and like I'm doing a pot liquor for my semi-pot liquor for my black-eyed peas now.
Yes, but so the pot liquor would be in beans and greens. So yes.
Can you use the green pot liquor for your black-eyed peas? No.
I wouldn't, because it's just such a different taste. However, and I really want to blow something up right here. So when you get, if you get canned beans and you have that liquid in your beans, and there's so many shows, so many cooking shows that tell you to rinse out the beans because, and throw away that essentially pot liquor. But if you got beans that were unsalted and you have that pot liquor that is left in the can, like canned beans, and you have that pot liquor that is left in the beans, strain it, start your onions and garlic and put that also into the pot, so you are also using that flavor and you also have some of that silky texture and consistency, because there's no reason to throw that out. I think there's a place for it. Now, the reason I'm saying get unsalted, because if you get the regular beans, then you have no control over the salt, unless you're not going to put any salt in it, because there's already salt in those beans and in that can. But I think that we can use that.
All right, so as we head into the holiday season, staple, greens, beans, tomatoes, no, lamb, no, I don't want to do that. You name it. The greens, Carla Hall, are the greens recipe and your beans recipe, is that in your cookbook? Or are they both in your cookbook?
No, not this one. This one's vegan. So I'm going to send it to you and you can share it. I share it with so many people. I'm not that type of person who doesn't share their recipes, because I think the more we share, and mine aren't going to taste like yours. You put your own energy into it and you start your recipe where mine ends and you go in whatever direction. So I will share it with you. And then what I started doing with black eyed peas, there is a recipe in my book, because I want to have black eyed peas all year round. I make them, I mean, black eyed peas, they cook really quickly. And there's nothing like fresh black eyed peas, right? Because the plant that comes from Africa are the cow peas, and they look like green beans. You peel them out and they have those little peas inside. Fresh black eyed peas or pink eyed peas and all of those peas, which are amazing and delicious. But I take those and I cut up cucumbers, like the Persian cucumbers, diced cucumbers, grape tomatoes, and I half or quarter those, and red onion. And then I make a hot sauce vinaigrette, because I want to have this in the summertime. Yes, hot sauce vinaigrette, where I take yellow mustard because it's tangy, and then you have that brightness to it. And also it's the thing that I have with fried fish. This is the salad, a black eyed pea salad that I have with fried fish, because I wanted to think, how can I take the black eyed peas that people have, for New Year's Day or over rice, but as a salad? Because, you have, I think in the South, they have the poor man's caviar or whatever, which you use black eyed peas for. So the hot sauce vinaigrette, you have yellow mustard, a little bit of honey, and apple cider vinegar, a little bit of salt, because there's also salt in the mustard, and pepper, and then olive oil. And then you shake it up and you have this dressing of all of the things and did I say hot sauce? And hot sauce goes in there too, that you might have on fried fish. So you take like hot sauce and mustard and onions that you would have on fried fish. That becomes your dressing, and you shake it up and you're going to put it over those cooked black eyed peas, tomatoes, and cucumbers and red onions. And it is such a delicious salad. It's one of my favorite recipes. It's in Carla Hall Soul Food.
Okay. You soak your peas for overnight?
I don't, because they cook so quickly. They do cook. You can soak them if you want, but I think black eyed peas, you can do a quick soak where you put them in the pot, you boil them for like an hour, and then you dump that water out, and then you cook them again, and it will take like 20 minutes. So you can do that. You can soak them if you want, but I never think, I mean, sometimes I'm just not thinking ahead. So I do the quick method.
Okay, all right, I like that. And I like the fact that we can pick up where you left off, because I'm into this relay race and everybody being an individual, and our thing should not taste like your thing. It should taste like our thing, and it should be just as delicious, but our thing delicious. So I love this, and I love that you're sharing the recipe. Are you sharing that chow chow recipe too? Carla Hall? Cause
Yes, this chow chow recipe, it is in one of my books. I think it's in my first cookbook, Carla Hall Soul Food, or it's in my second one. I'll tell you which
I'm gonna
cookbook.
put
It is
both
in my
cookbooks.
cookbook.
I'm gonna put both of them in the link in the description. Y'all can get
Okay.
both cookbooks and find out which one is in. But okay, let's look at the greens.
Y'all look at them. They have had time to. You see how the color changes? They have had time to cook. They're done. And then that pot liquor. I'm gonna make some cornbread. Oh now, and my cornbread doesn't have any flour in it, and it's not real sweet because it's made for sopping. I just want y'all to know. Oh my gosh, these are done. All right, let me get a plate. I just wanna taste them real quick.
Hey, Yvette, Carla's eating some of your greens. Oh my God.
Oh, y'all, this is how you do it. You know, this is how you do it. This is how you do it right here. This is how you do it right here.
Hold on. Okay. Oh, wow. Wow.
All right.
Okay. All right. Review. Just showing out. Carla Hall.
I'm gonna tell you. Toot toot, honk honk, ooga. Because if I can't toot my own horn about my food, I don't need to be sending it to nobody.
No, facts. So let me say thank you. Now I'm very hungry, girl. All right, listen. I'm so grateful to you, and I thank you so much. Your top is beautiful. Did you get that in Africa? I've been looking at it the whole show. I want that.
I got it at a shop of a woman who is from Ghana. It's called Me Too, ME with the number 2. She has a shop in Tyson's Corner, and she employs all of these women all over West Africa to make her designs, and I just go there, pick up stuff. I love this thing.
It's beautiful. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna drop that link in the description as well to go, because we got to support each other. This is that time where, and I almost feel like, you know, the African tradition of sharing and giving and receiving and I mean, we're traders. We're people that share our gifts and then receive and share. That's the circle. That's what currency really is. It's not hoarding, you know. So
right.
And thank you for the recipe, which I'll put out as well. And I'm glad you're my sister, and I'm looking forward to my greens. I'm gonna wait till the holidays though. I wanna not have to cook. Yeah.
You have a chit for these greens whenever. If it's the holidays you want them, the holidays it will be.
I will definitely cash that in. Carla Hall, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you.